businesses to educate and train them on sustainability. So basically what I'm going to be talking about is utility incentive programs and the need that they have to morph into a more holistic sustainability program in order to achieve a culture change, which is what I think we really need. So utility incentive programs in the United States are run so that ratepayers, everybody who pays an electric bill or a gas bill, pays a surcharge that goes into a pot of money, and then they can provide rebates or incentives that are technology focused. So if you have inefficient, outdated lights, you can apply to receive money back from the utility to change out the lights and make them more efficient. The programs have been around for a few years. In Michigan, where I'm from, there was a state government mandate in 2008 which required all utilities across the state to offer these energy optimization programs or energy efficiency programs. At this point, about 50% of our country has similar programs. A year later, in 2009, the federal government created the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, which provided dollars for states that have similar energy efficiency programs. The program that I worked on was DTE Energy, which is a major electricity and gas utility in Michigan. And the way that it works is, as I said, you would apply and you would get some money back. So I worked on the business side, and I traveled around the region and talked to all sorts of kinds of businesses, and had a lot of education myself about how businesses think and how we need to change the way we talk about sustainability in order to get the message across. The program is fantastic. It's doing a lot of good in terms of CO2 reduction, but like most incentive programs, it is virtually ignoring behavior change. In fact, a lot of the programs around the country will not allow behavior change as part of it. And this is based on the structure where ratepayers are paying in, and they are held accountable to show that the dollars are being used appropriately. And behavior change is always tricky to track and show that the results are there. So that's one of the reasons why behavior change has been largely ignored in utility incentive programs. But it's starting to change. There are programs that are starting to include behavior change. Mostly it's somehow blurry with marketing. So to talk about the business reality, this is an excerpt from a survey that was conducted by Siemens, and these are the drivers to corporate sustainability. This survey asked a long list of questions, and they talked to 203 businesses nationwide. They tried to understand what drives them. Why are they looking at sustainability? Because if we can understand their motivators, we can start to understand how to get everybody else up to speed. So the first one at the top there is energy savings and costs. 96% of businesses surveyed say that this is a big motivator for them, which is not a surprise. Businesses are all about profit for the most part. There are other items that they also are looking at, but you'll find that most businesses are only looking at the dollars. And if we're not talking about that, they're not hearing us. They're not listening. So what do we talk to them about? Most of us in this room have a fairly good understanding of sustainability, and we are probably all familiar with this lovely Venn diagram. It's so perfectly symmetrical and fractal, and it's so nice. But this is an ideological thing that most people have no clue. So we think sustainability is this perfect little balance in the middle when you have people, planet, and profit all considered, the cultural, the environmental, and of course, the economy. But when I talk to businesses, many of them have no clue what sustainability is, and I am asked often, what do you mean when you say sustainable? They don't know, they have no idea. So this diagram is great for us, means nothing to them. This is what they think. If they even have heard the word, they think that we are all a bunch of tree-hugging hippies who go out and get sustainably harvested bark to eat for breakfast. So they don't care. They don't care what we have to say. They tune us out. Some of them maybe are in this this realm where they understand there can be profit associated with sustainability, but most of them think it is just something you do because it's the right thing to do, and it's going to cost them money to be sustainable. So why would they do it if all they care about and their primary driver is profit? Again, back to that survey from earlier, one of the interesting things that I liked in the survey is they talked about the stages of sustainability, and they broke down these 203 companies into these 5 stages. So 90% of the businesses that I work with are stages 1 and 2. That means that they think sustainability is a cost. It is a burden. Sometimes I have a great week and I come home and I get to talk about a business that understood, they've heard of sustainability, and they actually understand that it can save them money. That's their driver, so that's a good thing. And rarely do I talk to stage 4 and 5 companies, mostly because when they get to that point, they understand, and they don't need me to come in and train them and educate them. They are rolling. They've got a chief sustainability officer. They're good to go. But all these other folks need help, and before we can help them, they need to know this is something worth pursuing. So I would argue that we need to be focusing on these stage 1 and 2 companies at the very beginning level, just to explain what is sustainability. So how do we reach these businesses? Back to the utility incentive program. Marketing is always challenging. I've dabbled in marketing a little bit in some of my roles with nonprofits, and it's always hard. Most of the utility incentive programs, the extent of the marketing is when you get your bill in the mail, you open it up, and there's a flyer that tells you about the program. Sometimes they'll spend the money for a billboard, but it's usually very generic, and it just says, save money, save energy, go to this website. And that's occasionally there's a TV ad, but that's also pretty rare. So we live in a very crazy society. In the US, especially in urban cities, it's very busy. People are distracted by text messages and email and television, and it's hard to reach people through these traditional marketing techniques. So I would posit that behavior change is so crucial. And of the different types of behavior change, I'm going to go through briefly. Social interaction, I think, is where we have the most potential. So cognition is one of the types of behavior programs that's being used to some degree by utility programs. It's focusing on delivering information. So this would include some classroom education and training, and some of the targeted communication efforts. Calculus is focusing on the numbers, teaching them through the calculations that, a home energy audit or an online tool, that this really does save them money. And until they see that, they don't believe it. Social interaction is a little bit softer. It's more interesting because it's really talking about peer-to-peer. And we are all social beings. It's one of our primary drivers and motivators is this sense of connectedness that Tom talked about. So this is why I think there's a lot of potential. And this can be done by everyone in this room. This does not have to be done by the utility incentive program. And I would argue that we all need to be sustainability ambassadors and usually using social interaction as a tool. So this is one example of first one. We purchased a home in Ypsilanti that was a foreclosure, and it was built in 1919, totally run down. We did a major sustainable renovation, and we opened our home up to tours. So in our community, we have been working very hard to educate the people around us. We've got a big garden right next to the sidewalk, and people walk by every day. We're right downtown. And I have had countless interactions with strangers that just walk by and say, what are you growing? And we end up having a long conversation about sustainability. So we also host international guests that are coming to Michigan through Airbnb, and we have signs throughout the house so that friends, family, strangers can read about what we're doing. And this has been a great, great tool. So you kind of have these two spectrums. The incentive programs that are the extrinsic motivators give you money, you make change. These are successful at reducing CO2, but they're kind of a one-off. So if I say I'm going to give you $5 to change out your light bulb, the next time you need one, if that incentive goes away, you might not do it because you're not going to get the $5 and you have not learned all the other reasons why this is important. So the incentive programs are good, but they're focusing on the owner or the chief financial officer. They're not educating the employees. They're really limited in longer term approach. The education campaigns are information only. There's no money necessarily involved. They're harder to measure, so that's a challenge. But they're focusing on educating more people, and the results are longer term. So, best approach, I would argue both. I think we need both of them. But the bottom-up approach is where there's the room to grow. The incentive programs, they're there. They need this. So, this is again where I would argue we can all make a difference. So when I travel, I bring my grocery bag, I bring my reusable spoon, I bring my water bottle, because this drives me crazy. And when I go places, I don't stand up on a soapbox and, espouse you're doing bad. I don't want to tell people they're doing bad. But setting an example, going to a restaurant where they use paper napkins, and just being nice and asking the manager, have you ever considered cloth napkins instead? And if they're interested, you could explain a little bit about how this would benefit them, and it would make their presence in the community better because they are doing something for the environment. So there's lots and lots of ways that we can be doing something every day to make a difference. And again, I would charge every single one of you to leave here and become this sustainable ambassador. Do one little thing that you're not already doing, and you'll be amazed at the interactions. When you take your own to-go container to a restaurant, people notice, and they look and they say, that's a really good idea, I never thought of it. So it's just a matter of showing. So the culture shift, it takes time. This is not going to happen overnight, but there is precedence for this. I remember in the 1980s riding around without my seatbelt on. I mean, I was supposed to wear it, but nobody really cared that much. And you wouldn't do that today. In America, this law is now enforced because of societal pressure and social norms. It has slowly become something that you just don't do that. It's not normal. Same thing with littering. We had a big issue in the United States with littering 40 years ago, and there was a big campaign to try and change that and to, shame people, I think, to some degree, into thinking this is not okay. We don't do this. And littering is not abolished. There's still litter, but it's not like it used to be. So it has come down to a manageable level through a culture shift. So this is what I would say we are striving for in sustainability. So back to the two sides, the utility incentive programs and the public education campaigns. I think these are both necessary for a culture shift. As we work within them, neither of them is going to be that perfect Venn diagram, but if we're talking about profit, when we're talking about the incentive programs, okay, that's not the end of the world. We're trying to get to the bigger goal. So if we're talking about people, when we're really focusing on the social interactions, ultimately, together, these will be able to start creating a bigger change. So in conclusion, the incentive programs, they're virtually ignoring behavior change, and I think that this is a big issue. They're definitely ignoring the social interaction type. think that we need to be focusing on the stage 1 and 2 companies, and to take that a step further. I've been talking about two sides of the coin, the business and sort of the residential. But if I'm able to go out to dinner and show somebody at the table next to me that you can bring your own to-go container, that person works for a company, probably somewhere. So by that casual interaction, that casual encounter, I am, as an individual, affecting change that will trickle down to the community, to the businesses, to the homes. So that's pretty much it. And again, I think that individually, grassroots is where it's at. So I really hope that you all take this to heart and do one more thing than you already did.